Hi guys, thanks for joining. I'm Roma and this is Roaming Required. Ordinarily, we would be talking about travel, lifestyle and living in London. Today, it's a bit different. We're going to be talking about self-isolation. We are in day one of our self-isolation here in central London and I just wanted to pop by, have a chat, tell you how things are going here, and also I've got a list of things to share with you. We do work from home predominantly because I am a full-time blogger, and speaking of which, if you're new here, don't forget to click subscribe and the little bell so you get the notifications when new videos go live. It really helps us, especially now. I should preface that we are not here to give any travel or health advice. If you are looking for advice about COVID-19, whether you should or shouldn't travel during this coronavirus crisis, please don't ask us because we are not healthcare experts. Please check with the World Health Organization. If you're in England, Public Health England can assist, or if you're in the US, the CDC is a good place to start. For Aussies, I would recommend you start with Smart Traveller, which is a government website which can give you advice on where you should and shouldn't travel at this time. So the plan for these videos is very fluid, I must admit. I've got a few tips and tricks in a couple of different categories that might be of use to you. Things like well-being and mental health, and digital productivity, staying focused and attentive while you're at home, whether you are working from home and you're new to it, or whether you've been sent home and you have no idea what to do with yourself. And also I've got some recipe ideas which might be helpful if you're recently staying at home, you don't really know how to cook, or you have no idea what to cook with what you have in your cupboard. So the tips I share will change in every video. So my plan is to kind of drip feed a couple of each into each video so we all have something to watch while we are in self-isolation. So without further ado, let's get started. Tip number one is Inbox Zero. This is an amazing project. If you have nothing else to do with your day, see if you can get your inbox down to zero. I'll briefly cover the concept. So if you aren't familiar with Inbox Zero, essentially it does what it says on the tin. It's about getting your inbox down to zero. Essentially what you want to do is have a look at each email in your inbox and you either action it, file it, or delete it. So you should just work from the top down or the bottom up, whatever works for you. And then as you come into each email, then you do something with it. And then eventually you should get to zero. It's a great method. I used to embrace it when I was in corporate life, when I had the time to do so. It is very, very therapeutic. You will feel amazing after you've done it, trust me. And you can do it while watching telly or having some music in the background or something else. It doesn't require 100% of your attention most of the time. So it's a good one to get started with. Tip number two, this is about mindfulness and well-being. So if you have a little bit of time on your hands while you're in self-isolation, I can highly recommend undertaking a project or two in terms of self-growth or self-learn. So there's loads and loads of online platforms that can help you learn something new. It doesn't have to be technical, it can be anything. Some of the platforms that are really good is lynda.com, which I think has now been rebranded as LinkedIn Learning. That is a paid subscription though, but they do have a 30-day trial, I think. So you can check that out. I will put that in the description below for you just to make it really easy. Also, don't forget YouTube. There are so many tutorials on YouTube. So you can just learn what you want to learn from YouTube, and that's entirely free. So for me personally, the task that I have set myself for today is learning how to fold a fitted sheet. Seems really simple, right? But we have very small drawers and not a lot of space here in London. So I have always taken to just kind of like stuffing it in the drawer and hoping that that would be good enough. But realistically, what I would like to do is learn how to fold it properly so it's neat and stays put. So they're the fitted sheets with the elasticated ends that go around your mattress, which is meant to help keep them on the mattress, but it equally makes them more challenging to fold. So that is my task for today. Let's see how I go. I personally am a big lover of lists. So this brings me to point number 3, menu planning for self-isolation. It does seem a little excessive that you should have to plan for a menu. You can still get takeaways delivered, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, they're all still running in central London, but not everyone has that ability or the funds to do so. And it's about assessing the ingredients you have in your house right now, what you need to make the dishes you like, and having affordable, healthy options that really make you feel good inside, because at the moment I think we all need that. So the first step I would do in this process is to grab a piece of paper and open my pantry or cupboard and start documenting what I have inside. Things like, do I have pasta, rice, spices, flour, salt, pepper, any seasonings you have, anything like honey, peanut butter, things that you could use in a larger recipe. These things will become super helpful later. And also if there is something that you know that is very low, so perhaps your peanut butter is almost empty, for example, then maybe create a list of the things that you need when you go to the supermarket. I would repeat this process for the fridge and also the freezer, digging right to the back of the freezer and assessing if you have any, frozen spinach or something tucked away at the back, which has long been forgotten. And then you have a comprehensive list of what you've got, and then you can use those as a base or a starting point for your meal planning. From here, you should have a look at the list and see what you've got and then what you can make with it. So there's plenty of websites online where you can type in what you have in terms of ingredients, and it will give you some meal ideas and recipes. I will put some of those in the description below just to make it easy for you. Do feel free to check those out if you are being stuck for meal ideas or looking for a little bit of inspiration. Don't forget that Pinterest is also a great option for this. When you are making your list for the supermarket for your next dash to go and get supplies, I would ensure that you have a list of what you need, but also a possible substitution. So if there is a recipe that calls for double cream and you get to the supermarket and they don't have double cream, then you should be on your toes to know what you could substitute for double cream at the time. My last tip in today's suggestions is a recipe. So something you may not know about me is that when we lived in Sydney, I used to work multiple jobs and I did uni at night, which meant I was incredibly time poor. So I adopted the approach of batch cooking. If you don't know what batch cooking is, essentially it is cooking in bulk and then you break it down into smaller portion sizes into sort of storing it in Tupperware, where you can store it in the fridge and or freeze it for a later stage. From there, I used to grab one of those portions, grab a fork, and then run off to uni or snack between jobs. It made my life really easy and it was a really affordable way of eating. You can also adapt this same process while you're in self-isolation. It helps ration the food that you have. You can stretch things a lot further if you think about cooking in bulk. So I highly recommend it. And it also means you don't have to cook every day if you don't want to. So my meal base today is a very simple one. I just thought I'd start with something simple and give you an idea of where we can go with this if it's something that you guys are interested in. So I'm talking about Bolognese, and I'm not talking about the Italian ragu. I'm talking about very simple stock standard Bolognese sauce that most people make with mincemeat, and that can be beef, pork, turkey. It doesn't really matter. It's however it works for you, or in my case, whatever I have in the cupboard. That is your base. I tend to brown that in the pan with some onion and some garlic. Then you can add as much or as little vegetables as you want, depending on what you have available. I tend to tear up some baby spinach. You can grate a carrot. You can add potatoes, but I don't recommend it, and you will find out why in a minute. If you have a crock pot, this is the time to dust that bad boy out of your cupboard and put it on the bench, because a Bolognese will cook so well into a crock pot or a slow cooker. I tend to, after I've browned the meat and the veg, I will throw it into the crock pot with some stock, some red wine if I have it, and some tomato paste and like a jar of pasta sauce. I will stir it all up and then let it simmer away for about 6 hours on the lowest heat possible. After that, it is delicious. It can go on pasta, which makes a very simple and staple meal. You can also repurpose the meat to make a lasagna if you have lasagna sheets. And finally, why I said don't add potatoes is because if you have potatoes, now's the time to mash it up, and you can use that base as the base for a shepherd's pie by topping it with some creamy mashed potato and some grated Parmesan cheese. Delicious. Lastly is a very British suggestion, but it is another way, particularly to use the last dregs of your Bolognese sauce, is to put it over a baked potato. It is incredibly British, it is very wintry, and despite the fact that it is starting to warm up here, it is a very affordable option. All you need is a baked potato and some butter that you have cooked. You can even cook it in the microwave if you don't feel like firing up the oven just to bake a potato. Then just put some warm Bolognese mincemeat over the top. Voila! You can add cheese if you wish. So there's 4 easy menu ideas with one base dish of Bolognese. So that is, just to recap, spaghetti Bolognese, lasagna, baked potato, and a shepherd's pie. You can stretch one 500-gram packet of mince very far. The more you pad it out with beans and veg, it will go a lot further. Okay, so that's it for my first day of self-isolation. I hope these tips were helpful to you. Do leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this video. If you like the format, if you would like some more tips about staying productive during this time, or perhaps you just are a bit stuck and need some menu ideas. I am not a world-class chef by any stretch of the imagination, but I am quite creative when it comes to cooking from whatever I have available at the time. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do so now and click the little bell so you get the notifications when our new videos go live. Thanks for joining. Bye bye.